Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready to really get into something interesting? Today we're diving deep into voice search optimization.
I'm excited to be here. It's a topic that's really changing the digital landscape.
I think everyone knows it's becoming a bigger and bigger deal, but today we're going to really get into the nuts and bolts.
Yeah, like how is it really changing the way we search and interact with information?
Exactly. And what's interesting is I think a lot of people are already using it more than they realize. I know I am. Like the other day, trying to find a recipe with my hands covered in flour, so I just asked my smart speaker to find it for me.
Oh yeah, totally. That hands-free aspect is one of the biggest appeals.
For sure. But how big is this trend really getting?
Well, the numbers are pretty impressive. Some studies predict that over half of all searches will be voice-based by as early as 2025.
Wow, that's incredible. So we're talking about a major shift in how we search.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the devices we use, it's about how we formulate our searches.
Right. It's not just about using a smart speaker or a voice assistant on our phones. It's about the difference between how we speak versus how we type.
Exactly. When we type a search, we tend to be very concise, using just a few keywords.
Right. We might type best pizza if we're craving pizza.
Exactly. But when we use voice search, it's much more conversational.
So it's more like, okay, what's the best pizza place open right now that delivers near me?
Yeah, exactly. We use full sentences, natural language, and we often include specific details like location or time.
So we're basically talking to our devices like we would talk to a person.
Precisely. And that's where the idea of long-tail keywords becomes so important for voice search optimization.
Can you explain what long-tail keywords are and why they're so crucial for voice search?
Sure. Long-tail keywords are basically longer, more specific phrases that people use when they're searching for something.
Like best gluten-free pizza near downtown instead of just pizza.
Exactly. And they're important for voice search because they reflect how people actually talk. When we speak, we tend to be more specific and detailed than when we type.
That makes a lot of sense. So if we want to optimize our content for voice search, we need to think about those longer, more conversational phrases that people might use.
Precisely. It's not just about targeting those short, generic keywords anymore. It's about understanding how people are actually using voice search and tailoring your content accordingly.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, another thing I've noticed about voice search is how often people phrase their searches as questions.
Oh, absolutely. It was like we're having a conversation with our devices.
Right. Instead of typing weather, I might ask my voice assistant, what's the weather like today?
Exactly. And that's a crucial difference to keep in mind when optimizing for voice search. It's not just about keywords, it's about providing clear, concise answers to those questions.
So we need to shift our mindset from a keyword-focused approach to a question-answering approach.
Exactly. It's about anticipating the questions your audience might ask and providing the information they need in a way that's easy to understand and digest.
All right, we've talked about the difference between voice search and traditional text search, but how do we actually optimize for it? I'm sure our listeners are eager to hear some actionable tips.
Yeah, let's get into the practical stuff.
Perfect. So where do we start?
Well, one of the most important things is, like we've been talking about, long-tail keyword research.
So instead of just brainstorming a list of general keywords, we need to think about those longer, more conversational phrases.
Exactly. And we can use various tools to help us with this. For example, Answer the Public is a great tool that allows you to enter a topic and see a visual representation of all the questions people are asking about that topic online.
Well, that's really helpful. So it gives us a glimpse into the minds of our target audience and how they're using voice search.
Exactly. It helps us understand what people are actually searching for and how they're phrasing those searches.
So once we have a good list of long-tail keywords, what do we do next?
The next step is to create conversational content.
So instead of writing in a formal academic style, we need to write more like we speak.
Precisely. Imagine you're having a conversation with a friend. How would you explain this topic to them?
I try to use simple language, avoid jargon, and make it as engaging and easy to understand as possible.
Exactly. And that's the approach you want to take with your voice search content.
So write as you speak. Got it. What else is important for voice search optimization?
Well, local SEO is crucial, especially for businesses that have a physical location.
Right, because so many voice searches are location-based. People are looking for businesses near me.
Exactly. So make sure your Google Business profile is completely filled out and up to date.
We talked about that earlier. It's about having the correct business name, address, phone number, hours of operation, and even photos.
Precisely. And don't forget about managing those online reviews.
Right. Positive reviews can make a big difference in whether someone chooses your business over a competitor.
Absolutely. Now let's move on to something a bit more technical, but equally important, structured data.
Okay, I'm ready for the techie stuff.
Well, think of structured data as a way of organizing your website content so that search engines can easily understand it.
So it's like giving Google a map of your website.
Exactly. And the way we do this is through something called schema markup.
Can you break that down for us a bit?
Sure. Schema markup is basically a set of tags that you can add to your website's HTML code to provide more information about your content.
So it's like adding labels to different elements on your website.
Precisely. For example, if you have a product page, you can use schema markup to label a product name, price, brand, reviews, and so on.
Ah, I see. So it's like giving Google a cheat sheet to understand your website's content.
Exactly. And this is especially important for voice search because it helps search engines understand the context and meaning behind your content.
Okay, so we've covered long-tail keywords, conversational content, local SEO, and structured data. Anything else we need to know about optimizing for voice search?
Well, two things that are always crucial for a good website, but especially for voice search, are website speed and mobile optimization.
Right, because most voice searches happen on mobile devices.
Exactly. So your website needs to load quickly and be easy to navigate on a smaller screen.
Makes sense. No one wants to wait forever for a page to load, especially when they're on the go.
Exactly. And Google definitely takes these factors into account when ranking websites.
Okay, last but not least, any other tips for optimizing our websites for voice search?
One more thing that can be really helpful is to create a comprehensive FAQ page.
Ah, so if someone asks their voice assistant a question about your business, your FAQ page might have the answer.
Exactly. It's a great way to directly address those question-based queries that are so common in voice search.
This has been incredibly insightful. I feel like we've covered a lot of ground already.
We have, but there's so much more to explore.
That's right. In the next part of our deep dive, we're going to talk about AI-powered chatbots and how they fit into the world of voice search.
So where do we want to start?
Well, I'm really curious about the impact voice search is having on different industries. It seems like it's not just a one-size-fits-all phenomenon.
You're absolutely right. Different sectors are experiencing the effects of voice search in very distinct ways.
So let's break it down. Where do you want to start?
Let's begin with local businesses. Think about those brick-and-mortar stores, restaurants, service providers, all those businesses that rely on attracting customers in their immediate vicinity.
Right, those businesses that really depend on people being able to find them easily in their local area.
Exactly. For them, voice search is becoming increasingly crucial. It's often the easiest and most convenient way for people to find what they need nearby.
I can see that. I mean, if I'm out and about and suddenly get a craving for, say, a really good cup of coffee, I'm much more likely to say, "Hey Siri, find me a good coffee shop near me," than to pull out my phone and start typing.
Precisely. And that's why local SEO is more important than ever. If a business isn't optimized for voice search, they risk missing out on all those potential customers who are using their voice to find products and services in their area.
Okay, so we've talked about Google Business Profiles before. That seems like a really important piece of the puzzle for local SEO.
It's absolutely essential. Make sure your Google business profile is completely filled out, accurate, and up to date. We're talking about having the correct business name, address, phone number, hours of operation, and even high-quality photos of your business.
And don't forget those customer reviews. They can really make or break a business in today's digital world.
You're absolutely right. Positive reviews can be incredibly influential, especially when people are using voice search to find local businesses. They often rely on those reviews to make their decision.
So managing your online reputation is more important than ever.
Absolutely. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about e-commerce. How is voice search changing the online shopping game?
I'm really interested in that. I mean, I already use voice search to add things to my shopping list, but how is it changing the way people are actually buying things online?
Well, imagine this. You're at home, relaxing on the couch, and you suddenly realize you're out of your favorite coffee. Instead of grabbing your laptop or phone to browse online stores, you simply say, "Hey Alexa, order me more coffee beans."
Oh yeah, I can definitely see myself doing that. It's just so much easier and more convenient than the traditional way of shopping online.
Exactly. And that's the beauty of voice search for e-commerce. It's making the shopping experience more seamless and frictionless. Customers can browse products, compare prices, and even make purchases using just their voice.
So e-commerce businesses really need to adapt to this shift in consumer behavior. What are some key things they should be focusing on?
One of the most important things is to optimize their product descriptions for voice search. We've talked about this before, but it's worth repeating. People use different language when they speak compared to when they type.
Right, it's more conversational and natural.
Exactly. So when you're writing product descriptions for an e-commerce website, think about how they would sound if someone was reading them aloud. Are they clear, concise, and engaging?
And don't forget about those long tail keywords we talked about earlier.
Absolutely. People might use longer, more specific phrases when they're searching for products using voice search.
So instead of just listing a bunch of generic keywords, think about those conversational phrases that people might actually say.
Exactly. And another thing to keep in mind is the importance of structured data.
Right, we talked about schema markup earlier. It's a way of organizing your website content so that search engines can easily understand it.
Precisely. And when it comes to e-commerce, using schema markup to label product information like the brand, price, reviews, and so on can be incredibly beneficial for voice search.
So if someone is searching for a specific type of coffee, using schema markup can help Google understand exactly what you're selling and surface your product in the search results.
Exactly. It helps to make sure that your products show up in those relevant voice searches.
Okay, so local businesses and e-commerce are definitely being impacted by voice search. What about the travel industry? It seems like voice search could really change the way people plan and book trips.
You're absolutely right. Think about it. You're planning a vacation and want to find the best deals on flights and hotels. Wouldn't it be so much easier to just ask your voice assistant to do all the heavy lifting for you?
Oh, yeah, I can definitely see that. I mean, who wants to spend hours clicking through different websites and comparing prices? It would be so much easier to just say, hey, Google, find me the cheapest flights to Hawaii next month.
Exactly. Voice search is streamlining the travel booking process and making it much more intuitive and conversational.
It sounds like a dream come true for travelers. But what does it mean for travel companies? How do they need to adapt to this shift?
Well, one of the most important things is to optimize their website content for voice search. Just like we've been discussing with other industries, it's about using natural language, anticipating the questions people might ask, and providing clear and concise answers.
So instead of just listing hotel amenities in a bullet point format, they might need to create content that answers questions like, does this hotel have a swimming pool? Or, is there a restaurant on site?
Exactly. They need to think about how people actually speak and phrase their questions when they're using voice search.
And they probably need to think about integrating their services with voice assistants.
You're absolutely right. Allowing people to book flights or reserve hotel rooms directly through their voice assistant can create a much more seamless and enjoyable experience.
Okay, we've talked about local businesses, e-commerce, and travel. What about healthcare? How is voice search changing things in that sector?
Well, imagine being able to ask your voice assistant for health information, find a doctor, or even schedule an appointment without having to use your hands at all.
Wow, that would be a game changer for so many people, especially those who might have mobility issues or difficulty using traditional input methods.
Exactly. Voice search is making healthcare much more accessible and convenient for everyone.
And it's not just about finding information. Voice assistants can also provide medication reminders or offer support for managing chronic conditions.
Absolutely. It's like having a personal health assistant right there in your pocket.
It sounds incredibly empowering for patients, but I imagine there are some unique challenges when it comes to healthcare and voice search, especially around privacy and data security.
You're absolutely right. Healthcare data is incredibly sensitive, so it's crucial to ensure that any voice search interactions involving personal health information are handled with the utmost care and in compliance with all relevant regulations.
So there's definitely a lot of responsibility that comes with using voice technology in the healthcare industry.
Absolutely. But the potential benefits are huge, and I think we're only just scratching the surface of what's possible.
Okay, so we've seen how voice search is impacting all these different industries, but what does it all mean for our listeners? What are some key takeaways they can apply to their own lives and businesses?
I think one of the biggest takeaways is that voice search is not just a fad. It's here to stay, and it's only going to become more prevalent in the coming years.
So we all need to start thinking about how we can adapt to this shift.
Exactly. Whether you're a business owner, a content creator, or simply someone who uses voice search in your daily life, understanding how it works and how to optimize for it is becoming increasingly important.
Absolutely. So what are some specific things our listeners can do to stay ahead of the curve in this voice-first world?
Well, we've talked about a lot of practical tips already. Embrace those long-tail keywords. create conversational content, make sure your local SEO is on point, leverage structured data, and prioritize website speed and mobile optimization.
And don't forget those FAQs.
Yes, FAQs are a great way to directly answer those common questions that people are asking through voice search.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground, but before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to revisit those challenges we discussed earlier. It's not always easy to adapt to this constantly evolving landscape.
You're absolutely right. There are definitely challenges to consider.
So how can our listeners overcome those hurdles and make sure they're staying ahead of the game?
Well, one of the biggest challenges we talked about was measuring voice search performance. It can be difficult to track exactly how people are finding your website through voice search.
Right, because traditional analytics tools might not capture that data accurately.
Exactly. So we need to be a bit more creative and explore new ways to measure the effectiveness of our voice search optimization efforts.
It's a bit like being a detective, trying to piece together the clues.
Exactly. And we also talked about the fact that search engine algorithms are constantly changing.
Right, what worked yesterday might not work tomorrow.
Precisely. So we need to stay informed about those changes and adapt our strategies accordingly.
It's a constant learning process.
Absolutely. And then there's the challenge of accurately understanding user intent. With voice search, it's not just about the words people use, it's about figuring out what they really mean.
So we need to become mind readers.
Not quite, but we do need to develop a deeper understanding of how people use language, especially in a conversational setting.
Right. It's about understanding the context, the nuances, and the user's underlying motivations.
Exactly. It's a complex challenge, but it's also what makes voice search so fascinating.
It's pushing us to think differently about how we create content, optimize our online presence, and connect with our audience.
Absolutely. And ultimately, that's what it's all about.
This has been a really insightful conversation. We've covered so much ground, and I feel like I have a much better grasp of the challenges and opportunities presented by voice search.
Me too. It's an exciting time to be involved in this field, and I can't wait to see what the future holds.
Me neither. And speaking of the future, that's actually what I'd like to focus on in the last part of our deep dive.
That was good to me.
We've talked about some of the trends that are shaping the voice search landscape, but I'd love to dive a bit deeper into those trends and explore what the world might look like as voice search continues to evolve.
I think it's safe to say that the future of voice search is full of possibilities. It's amazing to think how far we've come in such a short time.
I know, right? From those early voice assistants that could barely understand a simple command to the sophisticated AI-powered systems we have today.
It's been a pretty remarkable journey, and the pace of innovation is only accelerating.
So where do you see this technology heading? What are some of the key trends that are shaping the future of voice search?
Well, one of the most exciting areas of development is personalization. Voice assistants are becoming much more than just tools for finding information.
Yeah, they're starting to feel more like companions or even personal assistants.
Exactly. And as they get to know us better, they can provide more tailored and relevant experiences.
So what might that look like in practice? Can you give us some concrete examples?
Sure. Imagine a world where your voice assistant knows your daily routine, your favorite brands, your dietary restrictions, and even your mood.
Wow, that sounds incredibly futuristic, but also a bit scary.
I understand the privacy concerns, but if we can get the balance right, the potential benefits are huge.
So it could personalize everything from our morning news briefings to our shopping lists.
Precisely. It could even recommend restaurants or movies based on our past preferences and current mood.
That would be amazing. No more endless scrolling through Netflix trying to decide what to watch.
Exactly. And as voice assistants become more adept at understanding context and intent, we can expect even more seamless and intuitive interactions.
Can you give us an example of what you mean by that?
Sure. Let's say you ask your voice assistant to book you a flight to London. In the future, it won't just show you a list of flights. It will consider your past travel preferences, your budget, your preferred airlines, and even the weather forecast in London to recommend the best options for you.
That would be incredibly helpful. It takes all the guesswork out of planning a trip.
Exactly. And I think we're also going to see a rise in what's called conversational commerce.
I have heard that term before, but I'm not entirely sure what it means.
Basically, it refers to the ability to make purchases and complete transactions using just your voice.
So imagine ordering groceries, booking appointments, or even buying clothes just by talking to your voice assistant.
Exactly. As voice technology becomes more sophisticated and secure, I think we're going to see a huge shift towards conversational commerce.
It sounds incredibly convenient, but it also raises some concerns about security and privacy.
You're absolutely right. Those are definitely important considerations. And companies are working hard to address those concerns and ensure that voice transactions are safe and secure.
It sounds like there's a lot of work to be done in that area, but the potential benefits are huge.
Absolutely. And I think we're only just scratching the surface of what's possible with voice search. As this technology continues to evolve, it's going to fundamentally change the way we interact with the world around us.
It's a really exciting time to be following this trend. So, what are some of the key things our listeners should be thinking about as they prepare for this voice-first future?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's important to embrace the change. Voice search is here to stay, and it's only going to become more prevalent in the coming years.
So, we can't just ignore it. We need to start adapting our strategies and thinking about how we can leverage this technology to our advantage.
Exactly. And that means understanding how voice search works, how people are using it, and how to optimize our content and our businesses for this new way of searching.
We've talked about a lot of practical tips already, but it's always good to reiterate those key points.
Absolutely. So remember, embrace those long-tail keywords. Create conversational content. Make sure your local SEO is on point. Leverage structured data. Prioritize website speed and mobile optimization. And don't forget those FAQs.
It sounds like a lot to keep track of, but it's all about creating a user-centric experience.
Exactly. Think about how people naturally speak and phrase their questions and create content that reflects that health. Anticipate your audience's needs, provide clear and concise answers, and make the entire experience as seamless and enjoyable as possible.
Those are some really great insights. It seems like voice search is not just about technology, it's also about understanding human behavior and communication.
You're absolutely right. At its core, voice search is about connecting with people in a more natural and intuitive way.
This has been an incredible journey into the world of voice search optimization. Thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us.
It's been a pleasure. And remember, the future of voice search is full of possibilities. Let's embrace the change and shape this technology together.
That's a great way to wrap things up. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into voice search optimization. Until next time, keep exploring, keep learning, and keep your voice heard in this ever-evolving digital world.